The Micah Parsons saga with the Dallas Cowboys is now officially over. We know that he is going to become a Green Bay Packer. And for Chicago Bears fans, this is devastating news for the short term for 2025. For this season, you have to deal with Micah Parsons 2 times this year. When it comes to the future picks, we'll get to that and what type of impact. We've got a little bit of data to share with you. But for now, this is a very large test. This is what the Bears have been preparing for. They knew they had to get better on the offensive line. That's why you took Joe Thuney. That's why you brought in a new center and Drew Dahlman, a guy that can be the best center you've had since Olin Kreutz, and why you took Darnell Wright 2 years ago to pair with this new offense. When they brought in Darnell Wright, they were saying we need a guy to protect our quarterback. When they took Braxton Jones, they thought he could maybe be a potential great player for this offense. Now, Micah Parsons is an elevated player that there certainly are not many of in the National Football League. We talk about a guy that has had double-digit sacks every single year of his NFL career. That is something special. The only knock you could come up with Micah is whatever it has to do with the attitude, having his own podcast, the opinions. Clearly, Jerry Jones did not want to have him around. So that certainly brings up some interesting conversation points in Green Bay. A very different situation, different type of market. There's no figurehead patriarch to lead that organization, right? Brian Gutekunst is the leader of Green Bay, makes the decisions, but Jerry Jones is like that force. When there is something that needs to happen, he's going to be the guy that ultimately makes the final decisions, and then it passes down to his son. For the Bears' outlook this season, having to face Micah, it's not just Chicago, it's Detroit and Minnesota, but you know something? Detroit and Minnesota swept Green Bay last year. And if you watch those games and you go back, Micah Parsons could have helped, right? But I'm more so thinking that Matthew Golden is a bit of an element that helps Green Bay a lot more in the sense of explosive plays. Micah absolutely is going to be a huge factor, but when you pair that with the losing of Kenny Clark, their best run defender, a little bit of concern comes up for what they'll be able to do in those matchups against the NFC North. We know Aaron Jones, good player for Minnesota. That new offensive line with Kelly and Donovan Jackson there. O'Neal for Minnesota. For Detroit, they go they lose their center, right? Frank Ragnow, he's gone. They bring in on the defensive side, Tyreek Williams, and they bring in Tate Ratledge out of Georgia to be that center of the future with arguably the best running back in the National Football League in Jahmyr Gibbs. So Green Bay is looking at this division, and they made what type of move? The same move the Chicago Bears made in 2018. They trade 2 first-round picks to go get one of the best edge players in the NFL, one of the most premier positions, and they will be paying him more than any defensive player has in NFL history. $47 million a year. For 12 sacks, that comes down to almost $4 million per sack. You can basically lock it in for Micah. We'll have something in the teens, probably around 13, 14 sacks on the year. So my thing for the Bears and why I'm excited about the future in this trade is the time is up now. Green Bay has the Super Bowl window officially opened. If it wasn't before, it absolutely is now. You have a Micah Parsons, you have that Khalil Mack type player. And why I bring up the Mack comparison, why that data is so important, because when Chicago got Khalil Mack, and they brought in an All-Pro, arguably the best defensive player in the NFL. It was him and Aaron Donald. Those are the comparisons. Donald got signed a couple of weeks earlier. The Bears roster was nothing like Green Bay's. Roquan Smith was just a rookie. Currently with Green Bay, they've got their quarterback of the future locked down. The Bears had Trubisky for a season. It was a bit up and down. There was a lot of questions that needed to be asked. Matt LaFleur has been to 2 NFC Championship games. The Packers were a little bit of a collapse from beating San Francisco in the divisional round 2 years ago. They fell apart at the end of last year, but they were still a wild card team. So you look at 4 of the past 5 seasons for Green Bay, they have done very well. They've been a playoff team. Whereas Chicago, when they acquired Khalil Mack, a completely different story, but still, you saw the impact. Took them from a 5-win team to a 12-win team, going 12-4, being the best team in the NFC North for that season. Even in 2019, a down year, Chicago still had a pretty good A team, made the playoffs in 2020, were 8-8 overall. 2019 really disappointing. A lot of the Super Bowl aspirations and hopes, but the offense just was not that effective. When we look back on that, it's like, okay, like the weapons that were for the Bears just were not that good. Allen Robinson, the main guy, but who did they have? Jordan Howard was a good back. Once Tariq Cohen got hurt in 2020, a lot of things that were not as good as what Chicago has now. Absolute weapons across the board. But of course, Micah is an outside player. He plays on the edge of the defense. Occasionally, you'll see him lined up on the inside, but over 95% of the time, he'll be lined up opposite of a right tackle or a left tackle, and that's not where the Bears acquired. That's not the strength of this new Bears offensive line with Dolman, Jonah Jackson, Joe Thuney. Those are all interior players. So when we see the matchups, Braxton Jones against Micah, Darnell Wright against Micah, we will be expecting the help. So you can't help but be a little bit grateful that Ben Johnson decided to invest right now in a player like Colston Loveland, adding in that tight end, changing the identity of this offense to be playing a lot more 12 personnel, 1 running back, 2 tight ends, to be a bit more physical, to have another guy to get in front of Micah, whether you're double teaming him with a chip and then that player releases to run a route like Colston Loveland or Komet can do on Micah, because do not get this wrong, you need to allocate 2 players to Micah Parsons over half of the time. He is that type of disruptor off the edge of the defense. As we know with Khalil Mack and what he did for those Bears defenses, Micah can do a similar type of thing for Green Bay. Green Bay was top 10 in takeaways a year ago. They had a top 10 defense. When it came to playing the best teams in the league, a 14-3 Minnesota team, a 15-2 Detroit team, a Super Bowl champion Eagles team, they were not able to fully match up. Why? Because the Eagles had the best defensive line. They had arguably the best offensive line in football, and of course that great dynamic top 5 wide receiver duo with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and the best running back in ball and Saquon Barkley. Did it look like they were a player away? That's my question for you. Did this move immediately make the Packers the best team in the NFC North? Of course, the betting lines, everything is going to shift for now. Those questions are ultimately going to be answered. Who won this trade? Heck, if we know. I mean, when the Bears had 3 games into it, you're like, they already won this trade with Khalil Mack. Now it's kind of funny because the player the Raiders took is now playing for the Packers. And so out of that trade, Raiders got Josh Jacobs and then traded him to Green Bay. Bears are going to be having to face Josh Jacobs as well as the new acquisition of Micah Parsons. So Caleb Williams, as Bears fans, we really hope that he was doing all of the sprints, all of the training that he possibly could to improve his speed, his strength, because Micah off the edge, this is a different type of force that Bears fans have had to face in a Green Bay Packer edge rusher. It might be since Reggie Wright. I mean, when Julius Peppers got there from Chicago, like, he was not anywhere close to the same player. Like, getting Micah Parsons in his prime is one of the larger moves. Obviously, they took Jordan Love in the first round. They traded Rodgers. Huge storylines out of Green Bay. Who would have thunk it? But Micah. So, last thought here is, everyone will try to evaluate this. There'll be Bears fans saying, oh my gosh, run for the hills. There'll be Bears fans saying, so excited. Yeah, Green Bay wagering the future. What I'll immediately say to those 2 points, we won't know the full scale of this trade until about a year from now. If Green Bay wins the Super Bowl, they immediately won the trade. That doesn't happen. We got to look at who the Cowboys take in that draft, what that player turns into. So I am going to have my first inclination towards being, we're not going to know who won this trade until about 5 years from now. With the quarterbacks available, though, it is fortunate that the Cowboys do not have the ability, the flexibility to go get a quarterback, because Dak Prescott is $150 million against the cap over the next 3 years. You can't just bring in a quarterback. You still have to pay Prescott $55+ million a year. So my one thing out of this that I'm bringing up is, do we see a possibility that the Cowboys want to trade Prescott to a team for a whole bunch of picks and first overall? So you would see Dak Prescott, 2-3 first rounders go to a squad and they get the first overall pick. Maybe it's Arch Manning and something like that. That's my first sort of hot take kind of prediction here of what we could see of a possibility, obviously, so far in the future. Now, what does this change? Lastly, for my prediction for the NFC North, it doesn't change it. As Bears fans, you're like, all right. So Detroit still have them finishing first, had a record of 11-6. Believe Green Bay goes 10-7, and then have the Bears right behind there at 9-8. Not down on them. Still think that they are a bit of time away. It depends on how the offense looks, and if Caleb is able to click a lot quicker, let's go. We'll be super excited about that. But Micah going to Green Bay, we'll know early on just how big of an impact he will have. So thank you so much for watching. This was a whole bunch of fun to make because obviously we got to keep tabs on our biggest arch rivals in Green Bay. So thank you so much for watching. If you're a Bears fan, if you're any fan and you enjoyed this video, please subscribe for more content. If you're a Packer fan watching this, appreciate you. I hope you stay for more content in the future. Try to provide as much of an unbiased perspective as possible. Keep things as even keeled. So I will see you next time with another video. And please get ready for football season because it's back.
Best player in college football.
That Georgia and Ohio State game, New Year's Eve, is going to be a classic.
Josh Blunder. Hi, everybody. I'm Josh Blunder.
To the 40, 35, 30, Espinosa to the 20.